I was really relieved to see that even in the second episode of Summertime Rendering, the show is still good. Just hope it keeps up. Just keep good. Keep like this. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the second episode of Summertime Rendering. So if you haven't watched the series, full on spoilers from this point on. Let's jump right into it. So jumping into this episode, it looks like we're not going to go the route of deja vu for too long. I was getting a little bit afraid as he got into like the whole funeral and everything. I'm like, oh gosh, this is going to play out the route where he does everything the same way as last time, change nothing, and just die the same way. But thankfully, at some point, it shifts, and that was obviously around the Mio that was outside of the house. So I was really glad to have that really quick shift. And again, technically, I wasn't really expecting them to jump right into another reset so quickly. But yeah, it was good to see that we didn't stick in that deja vu. It was just a dream kind of segment for very long. It seems like it's picking up very quickly, and because something like this can really sit in something like that and just waste a bunch of time really trying to realize something's not right here. So I'm really glad that it's really jumping quickly into Shinpei, essentially trying to find a resolve for it. Now, granted, I think what we kind of shifted into is from the whole idea of, is it deja vu, let me die again and not figure it out, to it seems like it's going in the direction right now of, let me see if I can offset everything and not really fix the problem. It seems like right now he's band-aiding a lot of things that essentially is going to change the future into another catastrophe. Like, for instance, it really does seem like it plays out that he goes and meets the family to tell them something, and I'm sure probably telling them to be aware of something. Him setting up the camera, him telling Tetsu not to go there, but they're not fixing the ultimate issue, which is, okay, well, if they're not there, it's still going to happen. It's just going to happen differently. Once again, similar to the first episode, I love the little nuggets they're dropping and how it feels at least rewarding that when I'm trying to figure things out, it feels like it's kind of panning out the way that I think it's going to, while adding new mysteries. Obviously, starting out the episode, he takes note of Mio's brakes, that they've been cut. And then later on, Mio's clone says, I tried to kill her, but it didn't work out. Well, that kind of indicates that the clone was trying to kill Mio at the very beginning with the bike brakes. My whole wondering what happened with Tetsu when he met the obvious clone, well, that's answered this episode. He got stabbed to death. Which does get us into some new insights into how the shadows themselves work. Obviously, the shadow Mio seeing Tetsu stab the crap out of him, and then it shows a new doppelganger come out from her, so it does look like the doppelgangers themselves, the shadows themselves, can just clone. So it wasn't a replacement, because my big question mark I had in the first episode was, how many of them are there? Well, it looks like they're going to essentially be infinite. It keeps duplicating itself as the new clone. So this clone Mio creates a new Tetsu, and that Tetsu erases the existence of the real Tetsu. So that's a good note there, is that apparently when they kill the person they're replacing, they essentially can get rid of them. Which made me think about something. Now, I'm still of the theory that Shinpei is either a clone or Shinpei has a clone. Because what was my crazy theory with the first episode is that what we're going to find out is that Shinpei is a clone that left the island and is coming back. Now, the thing that we hinted at with this particular episode is that when he got killed, when Shinpei was killed by Mio, the clone Tetsu says, are you going to make a copy of him? And Mio says, I'm gonna trip over this whole Mio clone Mio thing. And the clone Mio says, no, I think she said, no, he's already. So it kind of indicates at this point, she's saying either, yes, she could be saying, no, he's already too dead. Like, they can't clone somebody that's already dying, because then they're just going to clone a dying self. But it could also be her saying, no, I already cloned him. He's already a clone. Or he is the clone, like I said before. So we've already indicated before with the first episode that somebody was asking if Shinpei found the lady, which was obviously indicating this Minakata. He said, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So it obviously indicates that at that point, there is a clone Shinpei somewhere on the island, or, again, the original self. But I thought it was interesting at this point that we've already kind of indicated that somebody can be cloned before they're dead, obviously. They might not be clonable once they're dead, but the shadows have the ability to essentially erase somebody, like just burn them to nothingness. He essentially was nothing but like ashes left behind, or a shadow left behind. But I'm still going back on the idea that I believe that Ushio herself, that's in the coffin, is a shadow. That Ushio killed her shadow. And why I think this is because, again, typically when they replace them and kill them, they will erase them. So why was there a corpse left of Ushio to bury? She should have been erased. Unless the shadow killed her and then people noticed and then it had to run away, so that's an option there. But I'm still of the mindset that Ushio is alive, her real self, and that the one they buried was the clone. Because again, she says to come find me. I also decided to take a mental note and write down a note to keep in mind something, and it might be trivial, but I think it's important if so. When the Shadow Mio made Tetsu, he basically took on his persona. He started acting like Tetsu and making all these comments and everything. And the Shadow Mio specifically says, "Give me your gun." And Tetsu, this clone, doesn't even question it. He hands over the gun immediately, which again, I'm making a mental note here because this could indicate that the shadows have a sort of hierarchy system. That when one shadow sees something, it takes a snapshot. And that was the whole flash, so we got an indication of what the flash is, which could be the point which Shinpei was cloned. Let's keep that in mind as well before I forget that. But once a shadow creates a clone, it might be a thing where it's a hierarchy system that the underlings have to do whatever the upperlings say. Why would this Tetsu clone do what she says if it's taking on the persona of Tetsu? Why would he give her a gun? It's because she's able to order him. Which, if I go, and this is going to be something I'll add to my crazy theory, which is that Shinpei is going to be a clone that left the island and came back. But if we do find out that Shinpei was some sort of clone from a long time ago, he could have control over these shadows and be able to tell them what to do. But again, that's my crazy theory, and we'll store it over here in case it ever actually happens. You gotta say a bunch of crazy theories until one of them right. That way you feel really vindicated. But no, I thought it was interesting to really kind of note what the flash was at the funeral. It could have been a camera, but at this point, with Mio creating Tetsu, that was a strong indicator that whatever happened in that funeral home was a clone being created. And the only one that I can think of in that room is going to be Shinpei, because we already have a clone of Mio. I mean, yes, it could be one of the other parents or whatever. The girl in there was obviously a clone at that point. They even have Minakata, the big lady, later on note that there's one already there. She could have been talking about Shinpei. Again, she could have been talking about Shinpei, but the indication there is that's the girl. It was important to note that the moment that he died the second time by being stabbed by the Shadow Mio, it did kind of show that he was moved to the dock. Now, why this is important, I think, to note, is this could be an indication that there's a limited time. Kind of similar to other, I was going to say a show, but it might be spoiler for that show. But there's other stories that we've had where there's a reset to it. And it always seems like there's almost like a power limit. And as you use it over and over again, it gets less powerful. It could be an indication that it's similar to ReZero, where you have checkpoints that you can achieve, but he's already been there before. That's nothing new. Him getting out of that dock is nothing different. Now, what he did in that particular reset could shift things. Maybe the fact that he died sooner means that he can reset less further back, but it kind of indicates this idea that the more times that he resets, the less back he's going to be. It could get closer and closer to an impending doom. He could have less time to react as he resets. But it was funny that particular time he decides to do something different. Ushio tells him that he needs to make sure to protect Mio again, and so he decides, I'm going to stop the bike. And he gets knocked off the dock, and she jumps in after him. And my immediate thought goes to, Mio, no matter what happens in this beginning segment, we are still going to see your Panzu. But it's good, because apparently that is a sign that it's the same person. I don't know what that was about. The deja vu aspect of the Shimapan. We did get a brief moment with Minakata, which is this taller lady that he meets on the boat. She's recording this message for somebody. It kind of indicates that it's somebody that she works for, the way that she's kind of speaking, but it's stuff that she's recording to give to him so that he can, I guess, do better. Like, you should eat this stuff because it's good. Oh, by the way, you asked why I hang upside down. Well, it's because blood flows to the brain. Makes me think better. You should try it out. She's giving him a bunch of things to work with, but she's also kind of reporting on what she's doing. And again, it kind of indicates that she knows, or she can maybe at least see some sort of indicators or know who might be a shadow. Because again, she's looking down at this funeral and she sees Shinpei talking to the girl and her family, and she says something to the effect that one is with them right now. Again, it could be Shinpei, it could be the little girl. We already know the little girl is supposed to be one. I don't remember if it showed her in the first episode do this, but it did show her technically go to the funeral and look inside before the flash happened. I don't know what that significance is going to be, but it's a good thing to note. This is the third reset, so this is the point in which Shinpei is laying everything out. Again, he technically spoke to the girl and her family. He does tell Tetsu to go somewhere else, or reports a crime to go somewhere else. He records Mio, the Shadow Mio. He gives that to the regular Mio after seeing her in the shower, which why not? And that's when he divulges to Mio about the Shadow Mio and just explains everything and reveals everything, that he knows everything that's going on about the shadow that Mio and Ushio seen that Mio told him about. And so it's kind of getting that whole thing sped up. Probably a lot to throw on this girl so quickly, but it's kind of setting it up that it might be a Shinpei Mio duo to see if they could possibly fix the situation in this reset. He's obviously indicating to Mio that this thing's coming after you. It wants to kill you, so we obviously need to do something to protect you. I like that he's being honest with her. I think it's a bit much for her to take in. Technically, they were working together with the first reset. It just didn't work out well because they didn't know anything. But this particular one, they're going to be on the same page, and they at least can probably set up a plan to avoid her death. Obviously, it's the second episode, so probably not going to happen. But who knows? I mean, it could be third episode, they fix everything, and then we have 22 episodes of After Story where they're all happy. But it's funny to see that Shinpei finally acknowledged that he had a different colored eye. I think I noted this in the first episode impressions, but yes, technically he had heterochromia. And yes, she touched his face in the dream at the very beginning of the series, which I assume was her giving him one of her eyes. So again, what is that going to cause? Is it what's causing him to reset? Is it possibly her being a shadow able to bestow upon him partial shadow ability, which allows him to respawn when he dies? That's going to be the big question mark. Anyhow, I think that's all of my notes. I think the only other thing that I remained in my notes is that to note that the Tetsu in the first episode when he was in the diner and he clicked his tongue, obviously we now know that that was a shadow Tetsu, which kind of indicates to me that when he came in there and said that the family disappeared, it was to get Mio, the regular Mio, the real Mio, to go somewhere so that the shadow Mio could kill her. And I think because Shinpei ran out after Mio, that's why he clicked his tongue, because he wasn't expecting Shinpei to follow her. Mio was supposed to go alone so that she would be alone and that she could get killed. But yeah, fantastic episode. Loved episode 2. Cannot wait for episode 3. It's unfortunate that it's kind of in the release state that it is. It's a little difficult to get a real schedule set up for this weekly impressions, but I'm going to work with it because I think this is like easily the most fascinating show to watch and give speculations on a weekly basis, which I have a lot of fun doing. Unfortunately, I think it's going down the route of being in kind of like the Amazon Prime anime strike kind of syndrome, where I think a lot of people are going to be missing this show just because it's not easily available for everybody, but hopefully people will eventually get around to watching it. Maybe they'll go back and check my videos as they watch it. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this video. As always, if you've not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button as you get my weekly impressions on this show as well as other shows of this season. I also do top lists, news bits, coverage of anime. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Make sure to hit that like button down below. It helps support us, and leave a comment. That additionally helps us. Let me know what you thought of the episode. What do you think of my theories? Again, if you read the manga, please do not put spoilers down there. I don't want to know what happens. I just want to watch it and speculate on as we go. Additionally, if you want to support us more, we have a Patreon link and a tips link in the description below. We definitely appreciate everybody that supports us, and y'all take care.